Breaking news, Viking Nation. The storm is here, and it's hitting harder than anyone expected. We've got 5 explosive revelations that are shaking the foundation of this franchise right before the London clash against the Browns. And trust me, what's coming will leave you speechless. A franchise quarterback was spotted on the practice field, but there's a twist that changes everything. 2 warriors are preparing to return from the shadows, ready to reclaim their spots on the battlefield. The injury report? It's not just bad. It's getting worse by the hour, and a key defender just joined the casualty list. Then there's a versatile lineman about to do something he's never done before in his entire career, not even in college. And it's happening in front of the whole world in London. And finally, the timeline for the return of a superstar running back has been revealed. And Viking Nation needs to mark that date on the calendar. Each of these shocks could redefine the future of this team. And if you bleed purple and gold, you need to hear every single word. Because what happens in the next 24 hours in London might just determine whether this season becomes a saga of triumph or a tale of what could have been. So buckle up, Viking Nation. The first revelation is about to detonate, and it starts with the one name everyone's been waiting to hear. There's been a presence on the practice field in London that sent shockwaves through social media. A young quarterback, the first-round pick, the future of the franchise. But hold on, because this isn't the comeback story Viking Nation was praying for. Not yet. J.J. McCarthy was there. He was present. He was watching. But he wasn't participating. That's the headline that's splitting this fan base right down the middle. Head coach Kevin O'Connell had expressed hope earlier in the week that McCarthy could log some reps on Thursday or Friday. That maybe, just maybe, the rookie would be ready to step back into the quarterback room and start building toward his return. That didn't happen. According to The Athletic's Alec Lewis, who was at practice Thursday, McCarthy was there but not participating. He was on the sideline, observing, present in body but not in action. And that absence from drills? That's the real story. Because until he's truly back, until he's taking snaps and running plays, the Vikings are stuck with Carson Wentz under center. And that's a reality no one in Viking Nation wanted to face heading into Week 5. Wentz will start against the Cleveland Browns at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and the door remains only slightly open for McCarthy's return after the team's bye week. It's an encouraging but cautious timeline for a franchise desperate to see their first-rounder leading the offense. But here's the thing. McCarthy's presence is reassuring. It shows he's progressing. It shows he's engaged. It shows the injury isn't career-altering or season-ending. But his absence from actual drills? That's the brutal truth Viking Nation has to swallow. This is the second consecutive international game for the Vikings, and it's not going well. They lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers in Dublin last week, and now they're heading to London with a patchwork offensive line, a backup quarterback, and a roster riddled with injuries. The Browns, coming off a loss to the Detroit Lions, will start rookie quarterback Dylan Gabriel, and they'll be facing a Vikings defense that's also depleted. But offense wins games, and without McCarthy, without that spark of youth and mobility and potential, the Vikings feel incomplete. The injury subplot keeps growing. Dallas Turner, the edge rusher, joined the list of non-participants on Thursday due to illness. The offensive line is banged up beyond recognition. Donovan Jackson, wrist; Brian Kelly, concussion; Brian O'Neill, ankle; and Ben Urosek, knee, are all sidelined. On a positive note, Tyler Batty, C.J. Ham, and Xavier Scott were full participants, and that should provide a bit of stability for a roster in constant flux. But let's be real. Until McCarthy is back, until he's throwing passes and running plays and showing the world why the Vikings drafted him in the first round, this team is operating with one hand tied behind its back. So here's the question, Viking Nation. Do you trust Wentz to hold the line until McCarthy returns? Do you believe this offensive line, even without its key pieces, can protect him long enough to get the ball downfield? And most importantly, do you believe in this team's ability to survive this injury storm and come out stronger on the other side? If the answer is yes, if you believe in the Vikings more than you hate the Packers, drop a like right now and let the world know. Because the next revelation? It's about two warriors preparing to return from the shadows, and their comeback could change everything. But hold on. As shocking as McCarthy's absence is, there's a glimmer of hope breaking through the darkness, and it comes in the form of two warriors who've been waiting in the shadows, hungry to return. The Minnesota Vikings officially opened the 21-day practice window for outside linebacker Tyler Batty and fullback C.J. Ham, and head coach Kevin O'Connell has indicated that either one of them could return as soon as Sunday's game in London against the Browns. Let that sink in. Two players who started the season on injured reserve, two players who've been watching from the sidelines while their brothers battled through the trenches, are now on the verge of stepping back onto the field. And Viking Nation? This is the kind of news that can shift momentum, that can inject energy into a locker room drowning in injury reports, that can remind everyone that reinforcements are coming. Let's start with Tyler Batty, because his story is one of pure resilience. A rookie undrafted free agent out of BYU, Batty suffered a knee injury in the Vikings' preseason finale against the Titans on August 22nd. That injury sidelined him for the first 4 weeks of the season. But now he's back, he's practicing, and he's ready to contribute. Batty was a first-team All-Big 12 selection in 2024, and over 5 seasons at BYU, he racked up 16.5 sacks in 53 games. At 6'5" and 262 pounds, he's got the size and speed to be a disruptive force off the edge. Last season alone, he played in 13 games and totaled 59 tackles, 7 for loss, along with 2 interceptions and 1.5 sacks. If Batty makes his debut this week, he'll give the Vikings some much-needed depth at the edge position, especially with Dallas Turner now filling in for the injured Andrew Van Ginkel. Van Ginkel missed last week's loss to the Steelers due to a neck injury, and he's likely to be out again on Sunday. That means Turner is the starter, and having Batty as a backup could be the difference between a functional pass rush and a defense that gets shredded by Dylan Gabriel and the Browns' offense. Now let's talk about C.J. Ham, because this man is the heartbeat of the Vikings locker room. At 32 years old, Ham is in his 9th season with Minnesota, making him the second longest tenured player on the team behind safety Harrison Smith. He's a fullback in an era where fullbacks are almost extinct, and yet he's carved out a role that's absolutely essential to the Vikings' offensive identity. Ham missed the first 4 games of the season due to a knee issue, but now he's back, and his return couldn't come at a better time. Last season, Ham only touched the ball 7 times, 2 carries, 5 receptions. But he played over 23% of the offensive snaps and about 63% of special team snaps. He's not a stat sheet stuffer, but he's the guy who clears the path, who blocks like a wrecking ball, who sets the tone for the running game. And with running back Aaron Jones on injured reserve since mid-September due to a hamstring injury, the Vikings need Ham more than ever. Jordan Mason, the former 49ers running back, has taken over as the Vikings' starting running back, and he's been productive. 271 yards and 2 touchdowns on 56 carries, averaging 4.8 yards per rush. But having Ham back in the backfield to pave the way, that could elevate Mason's game to another level. Ham helped Aaron Jones rush for over 1,100 yards last season, and if he can do the same for Mason, the Vikings' offense suddenly becomes a lot more dangerous. Here's the thing, Viking Nation. These 2 returns aren't just about adding bodies to the roster. They're about adding heart, adding grit, adding players who've been through the fire and are ready to fight. Batty brings youth and hunger. Ham brings experience and leadership. Together, they represent the kind of depth every team needs to survive a brutal NFL season. So the question is, will Batty and Ham make an immediate impact in London? Will their return spark a turnaround for a Vikings team that's been battered and bruised? And can this defense, even with all its injuries, find a way to shut down the Browns and get back in the win column? If you believe in the power of resilience, if you believe in the heart of this team, smash that subscribe button right now and show the Packers fans that Viking Nation never backs down. Because the next story, it's the one that's got everyone in Minnesota holding their breath. The injury report is getting worse, and what happened on Thursday will leave you stunned. And just when fans thought it couldn't get crazier, here comes the next bombshell. The injury report isn't just bad, it's spiraling out of control. And the second injury report released on Thursday confirmed what everyone feared. Things are getting worse for the Minnesota Vikings. Dallas Turner, the edge rusher who's been filling in for the injured Andrew Van Ginkel, was added to the list of non-participants due to illness. Christian Darrisaw, the left tackle, had his second consecutive day of rest, which is unusual even for a veteran who's been given regular rest days. And the big one? Michael Juergens, the backup center, didn't practice due to a knee issue. And that's a massive problem because Ryan Kelly, the starting center, is in the concussion protocol. Let that sink in, Viking Nation. The Vikings are heading to London without their two main centers, and if Juergens can't go, the offensive line is about to look like a patchwork quilt held together with duct tape and prayers. The list of walking wounded is staggering. J.J. McCarthy is still not practicing due to his ankle injury, which we already covered. Donovan Jackson is out with a wrist issue. Ryan Kelly is in concussion protocol. Brian O'Neill, the right tackle, is dealing with a knee problem. Ben Urosek, the tight end, is sidelined with a knee injury. Andrew Van Ginkel is still out with a neck injury. And now Dallas Turner is dealing with an illness that kept him off the practice field. On the positive side, Tyler Batty, C.J. Ham, and Xavier Scott were full participants, which is a small victory in a sea of bad news. But the Vikings need more than small victories. They need healthy bodies. And right now, they're running dangerously low. Let's focus on the center position because this is where the crisis is most acute. With Ryan Kelly in concussion protocol, the Vikings were counting on Michael Juergens to step in and snap the ball to Carson Wentz in London. But Juergens didn't practice on Thursday, which means the Vikings are now scrambling to figure out who's going to play center against the Browns. The most likely candidate? Blake Brandell, a versatile offensive lineman who's played left tackle, left guard, and right guard during his 6-year NFL career, but has never played center in a game. Not in the NFL, not even in college. If Brandell gets the nod, it'll be his first time snapping the ball in a live game situation. And that's a terrifying thought for a team that's already struggling to protect its quarterback. The Vikings have talked about giving Christian Darrisaw regular rest days, but having him sit out 2 consecutive practices is unusual and concerning. Darrisaw played every offensive snap in last week's loss to the Steelers, so the rest is understandable. But the fact that he needed a second day off raises questions about whether he's dealing with an undisclosed injury. If Darrisaw is compromised in any way, the left tackle position, arguably the most important spot on the offensive line, becomes a major vulnerability. And then there's Dallas Turner, whose illness might seem minor compared to the other injuries, but it's still something to monitor. Turner has been the Vikings' starting edge rusher in place of Andrew Van Ginkel. And if he can't go on Sunday, the pass rush takes a massive hit. The good news is that it's still early enough in the week for him to recover and be ready to play. But the fact that he missed practice on Thursday is another red flag in a report that's already covered in them. Now let's talk about the Browns' injury report, because context matters. Myles Garrett, the Browns' superstar edge rusher, didn't practice on Wednesday but was limited on Thursday, which is a positive sign for Cleveland. Garrett has a history of missing games in London. He didn't play the last time the Browns were there, and there's speculation that he might sit out again. But if he's practicing in a limited capacity, there's a good chance he'll suit up on Sunday. And that's bad news for a Vikings offensive line that's already in shambles. Joel Bitonio, Jack Conklin, Grant Delpit, and David Njoku all showed improvement on Thursday's report, which means the Browns are getting healthier while the Vikings are falling apart. Mike Hall, the defensive tackle, was ruled out due to a knee injury, but the Browns still have Mason Graham and Maliek Collins, so they're not hurting for depth on the defensive line. The contrast couldn't be starker. The Browns are trending up, the Vikings are trending down, and Sunday's game in London is shaping up to be a battle of attrition. So here's the question. Viking Nation, can this team, with all its injuries, with all its uncertainty, with all its question marks, find a way to win in London? Can Carson Wentz, protected by a makeshift offensive line, do enough to outscore the Browns? And can the defense, missing key players at every level, slow down Dylan Gabriel and force turnovers? If you believe this team can overcome adversity, if you believe in the heart and grit of the Vikings, drop a comment right now and let the world know. Because the next revelation is about to blow your mind. A versatile lineman is about to do something he's never done before, and it's happening on the biggest stage imaginable. Stay with me, because what comes next will flip the script in ways nobody predicted. Blake Brandell, the Minnesota Vikings offensive lineman known for his versatility, is about to add a fourth position to his resume, and it's one he's never played in an official game in his entire life. With the Vikings without their two main centers, Ryan Kelly in concussion protocol and Michael Juergens dealing with a knee injury, Brandell is expected to move to the middle and snap the ball to Carson Wentz against the Browns at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London. Let that sink in. A player who's never taken a snap as center in a game, not in the NFL, not in the preseason, not even in college, is about to do it for the first time on an international stage in front of millions of fans. If that doesn't sum up the chaos surrounding the Vikings right now, nothing does. Brandell's story is one of adaptability and resilience. He was a 4-year starter at offensive tackle for Oregon State, spending his final 3 seasons exclusively as a left tackle. The Vikings selected him in the 6th round of the 2020 NFL Draft, and since then, he's bounced around the offensive line, filling in wherever the team needed him. He spent his rookie season on the practice squad, then was used exclusively on special teams, and as a 6th offensive lineman in heavy packages in 2021. In 2022, he replaced Christian Darrisaw at left tackle in 5 games, including 3 as a starter. In 2023, he played in 3 games as a right guard. Last season, Brandell finally got his first opportunity to start a full season, and he played every game as a left guard. He returned as a backup this season, but he's already seen action at left tackle and left guard due to the Vikings' ongoing injury issues on the offensive line. The only position Brandell hasn't played, either in the NFL or in college, is center. Until now, Brandell told reporters in England on Thursday that he's had a good amount of practice reps at center over the last few years, which is somewhat reassuring. "I've never played it in a game, no, but I've had a lot of practice reps, fortunately, whether it's on the scout team or elsewhere," he said, via ESPN's Kevin Seifert. "It's one of those things where I knew at some point there could be a possibility, and here we are. So I'm excited." Excited is one word for it. Terrified might be another. Playing center is vastly different from playing guard or tackle. Centers don't just block. They play a critical role in setting the protection scheme on any given play, making line calls, identifying blitzes, and communicating with the quarterback. And of course, they have to physically snap the ball at the right time, whether the quarterback is under center or in shotgun formation. A bad snap can ruin a play before it even starts. And if Brandell struggles with the mechanics, the Vikings' offense could be dead in the water. It's good that Brandell has practiced at center, but doing it in a game is a completely different beast, especially against a Browns defensive line that includes Maliek Collins and Mason Graham up the middle. Those two will be testing Brandell from the first snap, trying to exploit any weakness, any hesitation, any mistake. And if Brandell can't hold up, Carson Wentz is going to have defenders in his face all game long. At 6'6", Brandell will become the tallest center in Vikings history since Randy Rasmussen, who was 6'5", back in 1988. That's a fun bit of trivia, but it also highlights just how unusual this situation is. Centers are typically shorter and stockier, built to anchor the middle of the line. Brandell is tall and lean, built more for tackle or guard. But desperate times call for desperate measures, and the Vikings are about as desperate as it gets right now. With Brandell moving to center, the Vikings rookie undrafted free agent Joe Huber is expected to make his NFL debut as a starter at left guard. That's another position to watch closely, because asking a rookie UDFA to start in London against the Browns is a massive ask. The left side of the Vikings' offensive line is going to be Darrisaw at tackle, Huber at guard, and Brandell at center. And that's a combination that's never played together before. The lack of continuity, the lack of experience, the lack of time to build chemistry, all of that adds up to a potential disaster. It'll be interesting to see which offensive linemen the Vikings elevate from their practice squad to add more depth for Sunday's game. They're going to need all the bodies they can get, because if Brandell or Huber struggles, the coaching staff will need to make adjustments on the fly. So here's the question. Viking Nation, can Blake Brandell pull off the impossible and play center for the first time in a live game without it turning into a catastrophe? Can Joe Huber hold his own as a rookie starter? And can this patchwork offensive line, held together by hope and determination, protect Carson Wentz long enough to move the ball downfield? If you believe in the power of versatility, if you believe in the fight of this team, hit that like button right now and prove to the Packers that Viking Nation never gives up. Because the final revelation is about to drop. And it's the one question everyone's been asking. When is Aaron Jones coming back? The answer might surprise you. And listen closely. The next chapter is the one Viking Nation has been waiting for. The one that answers the biggest question of all. When is Aaron Jones coming back? The answer is Week 8. That's the target. That's the date to circle on the calendar. That's when the Vikings' superstar running back, sidelined since Week 2 with a hamstring injury, is expected to make his return and give this offense the explosive element it's been missing. Jones was placed on injured reserve after suffering the hamstring injury in Week 2, which means he's required to miss a minimum of 4 games. He already missed Week 3 and Week 4. He'll miss Week 5 against the Browns in London. Then the Vikings have their bye in Week 6, which doesn't count against the 4-game requirement. Jones will be out for Week 7, and then, assuming the injury heals on schedule, he'll be eligible to return for Week 8. That's the most logical timeline. And it's the one Viking Nation needs to hold on to like a lifeline. Because let's be real, this offense isn't the same without Aaron Jones. Last season, Jones had a career high in touches and rushed for over 1,100 yards, cementing himself as one of the most dynamic playmakers in the league. His combination of speed, vision, and versatility in the passing game made him a nightmare for opposing defenses. And with Jones sidelined, the Vikings have leaned heavily on Jordan Mason, the former 49ers running back who's done an admirable job filling in. Mason has racked up 271 yards and 2 touchdowns on 56 carries, averaging 4.8 yards per rush. Those are solid numbers, and Mason has proven he can handle the workload. But he's not Aaron Jones. He doesn't have the same burst, the same elusiveness, the same ability to turn a 5-yard gain into a 50-yard house call. The Vikings' offense is built around a 2-headed monster in the backfield, and right now, they only have one head. Xavier Scott is a capable change-of-pace back, but he's not the explosive co-starter that Jones is. The Vikings need Jones back if they're going to make a serious playoff push, and Week 8 can't come soon enough. But here's the thing. Even when Jones does return, the Vikings will likely take it slow with him. He's coming off a hamstring injury, and those are notoriously tricky. Rush him back too soon, and he could re-aggravate it and be out for even longer. The smart move is to ease him back into the rotation, limit his touches in his first game or 2 back, and gradually ramp up his workload as he regains confidence in the hamstring. It's a delicate balance, but it's one the Vikings have to get right if they want Jones to be healthy and effective for the second half of the season. So let's take a step back and look at the big picture. Viking Nation. What have we learned from these 5 revelations? J.J. McCarthy is progressing but not ready to return yet, leaving Carson Wentz as the starter for the foreseeable future. Tyler Batty and C.J. Ham are on the verge of returning, which could provide a much-needed boost to the defense and running game. The injury report is getting worse by the day, with key players missing practice and uncertainty surrounding nearly every position group. Blake Brandell is about to play center for the first time in his life, and the offensive line is being held together by duct tape and determination. And Aaron Jones is expected to return in Week 8, giving the offense a timeline to rally around. These are the stories that will define the Vikings season. This is the chaos, the adversity, the uphill battle that every team faces at some point. And the question is, how will the Vikings respond? Will they crumble under the weight of all these injuries? Or will they find a way to dig deep, fight through the pain, and come out stronger on the other side? Because that's what great teams do. They survive the storm, they adapt to the circumstances, and they find a way to win even when everything is stacked against them. So here's the final question. Viking Nation, do you believe in this team? Do you believe in the heart, the grit, the resilience of these players and coaches? Do you believe they can weather this injury storm, win in London, and keep their playoff hopes alive? If the answer is yes, if you bleed purple and gold, if you believe in the Vikings more than you hate the Packers, then do 3 things right now. First, smash that like button and let the algorithm know that Viking Nation is alive and thriving. Second, drop a comment below and tell us which of these 5 revelations shocked you the most. Was it McCarthy's absence, the injury crisis, Brandell playing center, or the Aaron Jones timeline? And third, hit that subscribe button and join the most passionate fan base in the NFL. Because this season is far from over. The battle is just beginning. And if this week felt like an earthquake, what's coming next could be the aftershock that topples the whole season. Think this was wild? Just wait until the rivals make their countermove. Because that war is only beginning. And listen closely. The next 72 hours might be the most decisive in this franchise's history. Will the Vikings rise in London, or will they fall deeper into the abyss? Stay tuned, Viking Nation. The storm is here, and we're riding it together. Skål Vikings. Let's conquer London.